All right, welcome to another episode of the Matt Report, brought to you by our friends at Cobos Insurance Center. I'm Sean Bennett from the Chronicle Telegram, joined by Dan Giuliani, head coach at Columbia Wrestling Program. Glad to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and as we do every week, we'll start with the top three performances from last week, and we're going to start with Peyton Bergdorf of Firelands, senior three-time state placer. He went 4-0 with a pin and a technical fall, all the way down in West Virginia at the Parkersburg South Duels. Beat several good guys, but the highlight match was Braden Johnson of Parkersburg South. He won the West Virginia 120-pound state championship last season, so a very high-level win for Peyton and a Lorain County League team, so you obviously know Peyton pretty well.
Yeah, feel like I've coached against Peyton for like 8 years now, but he is a tremendous athlete, and I'm not surprised by his results, and I really can't wait to see what he does down at the state tournament level, which I'm glad they're Division II and not in ours. So,
well, another team that you have to battle in conference, but not in the postseason because they also are Division II is Keystone. Luke Moore is our next top performance of the week. He went 3-0 with 2 pins to win the heavyweight championship at the Staff Sergeant Marcus Dawson Memorial Invitational at Plymouth High last Saturday. Pinned Gibsonburg's Taven Halbison. He was the top seed and a favorite to qualify for the Division III state tournament this year. In the final, and he defeated Edison's Carson Holmes 7-2 in pool play. Again, another guy that you guys are going to have to kind of face sometime through this season here.
Yeah, Keystone is very good at the upper weights, and I know our guys are getting ready for them. I've had kids wrestle Luke Moore before, and he is a very tough wrestler. And we have to really get ready for what we're going to see with him.
And obviously you guys have a really good high-level wrestler yourself at heavyweight. I assume that Luke is maybe one of his top challenges in the conference?
Absolutely. It'll be a really good match when those two see each other. And I know our guys want to win conference, but the conference is more to prepare for the offseason. So luckily we don't have to see him in the sectionals and districts. So this will be a great preparation for the state tournament for him.
And our last top performer is Avery Snyder of Midview. Kind of hard to choose here. There were 6 Midview guys who won championships this week. But in talking to Coach Sean Bristow, Avery Snyder was their team kind of wrestler of the week. He went 3-0 with 2 pins to win the 132-pound championship at the Columbia Invitational. Defeated Cleveland Benedictine Sharif Williams 11-9 in the final. Very exciting match. I don't know if you got to see that particular match, but seemed like it was a pretty good show there.
That was probably the match of the finals, that and the 113 match with Nolan Fry from Kaga Heights. But this match was much, very high energy, a lot of scoring. So that was definitely the match that most fans were, cheering about and going on about. So that was probably the match of the finals.
All right, so again, our top 3 performers of the week, Peyton Bergdorf of Firelands, Luke Moore of Keystone, and Avery Snyder of Midview. On to our next segment, which is my favorite move. It's brought to you by Century 21 Deanna Realty. It's a move where we go out and we kind of meet with Lorain County wrestlers. They kind of show us our favorite moves. It's a fun segment a lot of people seem to enjoy. This week is going to be Lorain's Xavier Santiago. He's going to show us his favorite move, which is the fireman's carry. So without further ado, here it is, my favorite move with Lorain's Xavier Santiago, brought to you by Century 21 Deanna Realty.
Hi guys, I'm Xavier Santiago, and I'm a junior at Lorain High, and I'm going to be hitting my favorite move for you guys. My favorite move is the fireman's, so yeah. So to do this move, you guys get in a tie up. With your left, you're going to pull right here. And right here, you're going to step right in between the legs. You get right here. And you're basically sitting here.
So obviously, pretty bread and butter move amongst wrestlers in their repertoire. How did you kind of think that looked there?
I think he did a very good job with demonstrating it and setting it up. So I like how he does it from the other side. That other guys usually go to the other side of that he showed. So it's interesting that it's a good way for kids to learn once, because you got to be able to attack both sides. So I like that he shows how to do it on the opposite side that most kids are used to hitting it.
All right. Well, again, that was my favorite move by Lorain's Xavier Santiago, brought to you by Century 21 Deanna Realty. So next segment, I thought we'd talk about that Columbia Invitational. You guys hosted that tournament. We already kind of talked about Avery Snyder at Midview. But Midview as a whole, they won the team championship there. I know you obviously are focused on your guys and kind of can't watch all the matches, but I would assume it was pretty impressive watching some of those Midview guys wrestle.
Yeah, they look very impressive. I know talking with their coaches, they kind of said they're a young team, much like us, but especially watching their 145-pounder and their heavyweight, very impressive crew, and I was they did a very good job out there on the mat. Even the matches against our guys, a lot of times our guys had to fight for wins against them, so. Very tough team, and I can't wait to see how they keep improving throughout the years, too.
So they finished with 10 placers out of 14 weight classes, which is super impressive. 6 champions. Jamison Schenberger won at 120. Avery Snyder, which we mentioned, won at 132. James Hutchinson won at 138. Andrew Fillion, who is expected to do some big things this year, his senior year, won at 145. Zach Gill, one of the top football players from Midview, won at 160. And Daniel Bucknavich won at 285. Bucknavich, obviously, has been rolling all year. He's still undefeated. Went 4-0 in the event with 4 first-period pins, including meeting Eli, one of the tougher heavyweights, your guy at Columbia. He had to be kind of an impressive, kind of just to watch him perform out there.
It was. I mean, all the heavyweights, I always have to look up to them anyway because they tower over me. But even with with Daniel, it looks like a powerhouse heavyweight. And Eli, I knew going in, was nervous. He knew obviously about Daniel, and he wrestled him tough in the beginning. But with a kid like Daniel, you make one mistake against him, and you're done for. So again, I can't wait to see what he can do at the state tournament. It's going to be really impressive, and I was very impressed with how he went out there and just took care of business.
Moving away from Midview, some of the other, we can't go over all the teams, but some of the finalists from some of the other teams locally. Colin Noel from Elyria, he was out the week before. He finished runner-up at 113. He's a state-ranked kid, so kind of impressive. I think he's eventually going to drop down to 106. Neo de los Santos finished second at 126. I believe I was told that was his first high school tournament final. Dylan Hendricks finished second at 160. Darius Atley finished second at 182 for Elyria. Brookside had a finalist in Tyler Warren. He was runner-up at 138. And then your team, Columbia, had 3 finalists. Cole Schulke at 106, Tony Governal at 152, and we mentioned Eli Caraballo at 285. So obviously some good Lorain County guys getting in there and battling for championships.
Yes. And, especially for Cole and Tony, both are freshmen. This was their first high school championships that they've wrestled in. I don't think they let the spotlight get too much to them. They both wrestled very tough competition. Cole Schulke lost to Lampa from Normandy, and Tony Governor lost to, cannot recall his name off the top of my head, but it was Benedictine referee, Schaefer, I believe his name is. I know he was a district qualifier last year, so very tough kids. But for them to get to that point was a big confidence booster. And we had other guys compete as well that didn't place, but they performed above our expectations where they're at currently. And we did have a few kids missing with injuries or illness, so we're hoping to get those guys back as soon as we can.
All right, so obviously a very successful event. I heard it was run well, so look forward to maybe getting out there if I can get unchained from the desk and get to go cover that next year. So
yeah, I mean, we have Ray Anthony and Tom Evans run that tournament. They do a fantastic job. This was probably the biggest, most entries we've had in about a decade in the tournament. So a couple of years there's been where we didn't have enough weight classes and they just do round robin and pool.
Right.
This year we had at least 8 kids in every bracket.
Awesome.
So it was and was still done pretty early. We were done about 4:00. So great tournament, great little tournament for people to do. So we look forward to next year being even better.
Awesome. Well, for our final segment, we just kind of have a conversation with our guest co-host every week. So let's kind of start with you as far as like just your history with the sport as both a competitor and a coach. When did you start?
I started in 7th grade because my best friend was wrestling and he did it for years and he talked me into it because he knew I couldn't play basketball because I'm only 5'2". So I figured it'd be great if it would help me with football. So I tried it, got destroyed every match, came back and fell in love with it right away though, because and I tell the kids, especially youngsters when they come out, that first year is going to be tough for you. It's more about learning. You're going to take some lumps on the mat, but you come back that next year, you're 1,000 times better than you were, and it just feels more natural. So I kept wrestling, wrestled throughout high school, at Independence High School. Unfortunately, my career got cut short my senior year with a shoulder injury. So I look at it as a bright side, though, because I went right into coaching right after high school. So
Right.
started coaching at Independence, assisting with them. Stayed there for about 15 years, helping out. Eventually got a head coaching job at Brooklyn High School. Was there for about 2 years. Went to Columbia, help out there since that's when I started teaching. Helped out there for 2 years, and then got a head job at Rocky River for 1 year. And then Columbia opened back up this year. They asked me to come back, and I jumped right on it because this is where I live now, where I teach. So, and I know the potential that we have coming up from our youth and middle school. So.
Yeah, Brooklyn, Independence, Columbia, they all have been conference rivals in
Yeah.
the MAC 8 and some of these other things. So you had some familiarity there all
Yes.
along.
Yes. Brooklyn, obviously was our old sectional. They were in a conference, and coming to Columbia, which was very weird for me because if you would ask me in high school which school I would never coach at, Columbia would be the one. Absolutely hated
Big
Columbia.
rival.
Big rival. Could never beat their guys, and now I'm talking to those guys every week and meeting with them and talking about how we can build Columbia back up to the power it used to be. So kind of ironic how things work out that way.
Let's talk about the duel in the school. You already competed one in Lutheran West. You're going to still
Yes.
do another one with them. It's kind of a cool thing. I went to my first one, I think, about 5-6 years ago. Amherst and Lorraine did one. Went to one last year with Avon and Berea Mid-Park. It's such a cool idea. It seems to be gaining steam. A lot of teams are starting to add those to their schedule. Just talk about the experience and how kind of neat it is to have a school gym packed with students.
Yeah, it was great with Lutheran West because their crowd was really into it. I think we've done them before as well, but sometimes you don't have a full team, and the forfeits kind of lessen it. But this year, us and Lutheran West, I think we maybe only had 2 forfeits between us. So there was almost a match at every weight class, and the crowd getting behind it whenever there's a big move. And I know a lot of the kids probably don't understand what's going on, but they know when somebody scores because the officials are doing it, or they know when someone gets pinned, and the crowd really reacts to it. And our guys fed off that. When we would get a big win, it would silence the crowd, and it pumped our guys up. Or if they get a big win, our guys get more fired up. And it's a great way to prepare all wrestlers for, if you want to get to that next level, you're going to have to deal with a hostile crowd or a very loud crowd, and you have to block that distraction out. So it's a good way for for wrestlers even, to kind of learn how to handle big pressure situations. And ultimately, we do these duels in the schools try to attract more kids to come wrestle. I mean, when kids actually come and see it, they get intrigued. I had 3 even girls at our Columbia Invitational come up to me and say they never saw wrestling before, and they came to watch their friends, and they loved watching it, and they are interested in maybe next year coming and joining our girls team. So I think it's a great way to help attract maybe potential new wrestlers to the sport.
Well, speaking of girls, I think at the Brew Kettle for the season preview, you kind of mentioned your daughter. I think that night was her first practice. So I assume you have a special interest in that, and the fact that the first girls sanctioned state tournaments this year. Your kind of thoughts on how that's progressing forward, and obviously a good thing for female wrestlers.
Yeah, I believe that that's the one thing that's going to help our sport more than anything is getting girls involved. Lutheran West has done a great job building a girls team. I tried to recruit some high school girls. It was a little difficult. Now maybe we might get some more. I teach at the middle school, so I was able to attract 3 girls, though, to our middle school team, and they're loving it. We got a couple more girls coming up. So I'm hoping that our squad keeps building, but I think getting girls wrestling sanctioned is what's really going to help our sport. It's not obviously 2-piece singlets or other little things that they try to bring in. It's bringing girls in and having a girls division where they can compete with one another. Because you look at every state that has it, it's been growing exponentially in those states. So do get more nervous when my daughter wrestles, though, than when any of my kids wrestle. So it's still tough for me to watch, but she's loving it. She's learning. She got her first takedown last weekend. She's
Nice.
so thrilled about that. So to me, if she's happy, I'm happy. So
Awesome. Well, we've got a little bit of time left, so we'll just kind of get one kind of your general thoughts about the team, the new league starting pretty soon. When we last talked to you, we hadn't done anything yet.
Yeah.
Now you're into it about a month into the season. Your thoughts on just the Columbia team and the new league?
yeah, we're very young. We got 19 kids. 11 of them are freshmen. So right now it's more about building those basics and getting them understanding how to wrestle. So it's, we had high expectations and we still do, but obviously we have to curb them a little bit based on how many new kids we have. And it's more about making sure that they understand the fundamentals of wrestling and how, falling in love with the sport, because some of these kids never wrestled before. You got to love the sport if you want to stick with it. So we're trying to make sure these kids are having fun, building a culture in our team, because we haven't had one in a while. So we're pretty much doing that pretty well. The kids are buying into our new culture. As far as the LC8, again, it's obviously much smaller than our previous conference with the Patriot League. But if you look around, you got Brookside had a bunch of places at our tournament. Columbia, Keystone has a very good team. Firelands has a very good team. There's a lot of good wrestlers in this conference. So I think the conference tournament is going to be very interesting. It's going to be very competitive, especially when you get into those semis and finals matches, because a lot of those kids know that they're going to be seeing those guys again in a few weeks at sectionals and districts. So I think it's going to be a very interesting and very fun league this year.
All right. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show this week, and that's going to wrap it up for another week at the Matt Report. Again, we thank our sponsors, Copus Insurance Center, the title sponsor, and Century 21 Deanna Family Realty for sponsoring My Favorite Move. Thanks to Kristen Bauer behind the camera. I'm Sean Bennett for Dan Giuliani. We'll see you next week. Oh, and just to kind of tease next week, my partner in crime for the Avon football run, Marissa McNeese, is going to be joining me. She's going to be bringing props, I've been warned. So we'll have something fun to look forward to there. So again, thanks for everybody for stopping in this week, and we'll see you next week.